Live, uncut, unedited. All right, people, come on in. We got a great show tonight. I have a couple of I have an instructor on here that teaches the CCL classes. I have a young man also as well. He has been in law enforcement, on his own security firm. So we're going to hear some things. So, and I need you guys to listen, be patient. And eventually, if you want to call in and ask some questions, we will take some questions. But we're not in here to debate now. It's not a debate. And also, I want to thank those that watch this show every day faithfully, that support this show by listening, sharing with your monies, with your blessings, and all that. I got a couple of guys, they're well known in the community. This is what they do. I've asked them, they can advertise if they want to teach or if they're hiring, whatever announcement that they want to make, it's okay with me. So they have the green light. Now, if I have not asked you to come on this platform, I don't need you to advertise your conceal and carry classes or whatever, your security class. Please don't do me like that. I will block or delete your comments real quick. So we all know the story, what's going on here in the city of Chicago. With the there has been a shooting. But even if none of my callers are familiar what happened in this particular shooting, there was a 32-year-old principal that was shot. A black man, a white man did the shooting. He's a CCL, license to conceal and carry. I hope I'm saying that right. But the question is, I want to know according to the law. Now, we know the law says one thing, but when you take it into court and they might do work wonders and blow it away and say it's not justified. So I'm asking, only thing I want from my panel today is to tell me what the law says. Now, one of the questions we had, people referred, Mr. Mike, I have string on here. One of the questions was asked that the 17-year-old, the 16-year-old boy that shot and killed in the restaurant, we all know the story, over there on Halsted, 116th and Halsted, he was not charged. But I always say this. First thing I would say this. He did break the law. You, a minor, cannot own or purchase a firearm legally if you're a minor. You can't do that. I know that's the law. No longer is shooting it. So that is broken the law. Well, you say, well, Martin, if somebody beat your mom, what you do? Would you do? I probably would have done the same thing, to be real honest. But right now we're talking about what the law says, what's on the book, what's written on the book. So I want both of my guests, I'm going to call you guys out and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in the community or what type of work you do. I'm going to start with my first guest, Mr. Stringer Harris. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, first of all, thank you, Martin G. Johnson, for having me on. And to my other guest here, Mike Brown, man, I love you. I watch your stuff. Great concealed instructor. A little bit about me. I was in law enforcement for 9 years with the Sheriff's Department. I've done bodyguard work for over 25 years. And I've owned my own security company for well over 18 years. And I guess that's about it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Mike Brown, you're next.
Hey, what's going on? Instructor Mike, security training concepts, former police officer, detective, corrections officer, all that great stuff. Owning my own business, teaching security, concealed carry, and adjunct criminal justice professor, a variety of different things. I'm just happy to be here to share my knowledge, Linda.
Okay. Thank you. And gentlemen, I also have somebody online. I don't know who this. Oh, okay. I know. This is another instructor. I'm sorry. Come on, Mr. Instructor 646. Come on, introduce yourself. Come on, introduce yourself.
How you doing? It's Kevin Wheeler over here, former U.S. Marine, owner of Wheeler's Firearms and Safety Training, LLC, and partners with American Civil Defense Company. What we do is we specialize in all types of training from firearms to self-defense, fitness, and all for military, law enforcement, and civilians.
All right, I got some big wheels in the house. I got some big wheels in the house. Sorry if you guys hear echo. Probably need to take me off speakerphone if you can, but if not, don't worry about it. I just don't want the little echo. But all right, now I'm going to start with my first guest, Stringer. Stringer, how old
Yes, sir.
you have to be in order to purchase a firearm, to own a firearm here in this state of Illinois, or across the country? You tell me that. I'm asking the question.
Now I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yes.
I'm gonna defer over to Mike Brown.
Okay, we'll let Mike Brown. Okay.
The laws change all the time. Yeah, I'm gonna defer to Mike Brown.
Okay, Mr. Mike Brown.
All right. So within the context of a pistol, semi-automatic or revolver, you cannot purchase a firearm until you are at a minimum 21 years of age and at least having been issued an Illinois State Police issued firearms owner's identification card. Now, you can have that FOID card if your parents have a FOID card, but that does not allow you to purchase it. It only allows you to possess it and train with it and perhaps hunt.
Perfect. All right, my brother, 646.
Yes, sir. Mr. Brown was correct. You have to be 18 in order to have a rifle, 21 to have a pistol. You can get a FOID card, FOID card, firearms owner's identification card, at any age as long as your parents sign off on it. But like you said, you can't purchase anything until you're 21 in the state of Illinois.
Okay, wonderful. What's your name again, brother? I just want to make sure I have your name right. The last brother.
Kevin Wheeler.
Willis. Okay, Mr. Willis. Okay. All right. And this is not a debate. And I hear a lot of hearsay, what you can do and what you can't do. Now, I'm gonna ask, I need you guys to put your phone on mute until I call on you. So I won't hear the echo. Or just put your phone on mute until I call on you. I'm going to Mr. Stringer Harris again. Mr. Stringer, in your own words, when is it justifiable to use deadly force on a person?
On a person?
Yeah.
That would be if your life is in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like, your life is at risk, or you see someone else's life immediately in harm of death as well. Example, you may feel because of my size and my statute, if I was into an altercation with you, under the color of law, again, me speaking, saying, whatever, they don't give you a right to kill me, right? If we're in an altercation or you feel like, or I have used these words, I'm going to kill you, that can be a reason to, again, people, you got to feel like your life is in jeopardy where, my size can play a part, and I'm looking from it from a court of law standpoint, because I say this, and instructors see it all the time probably. The law, as much as we love the law, when you get into that courtroom, we don't see the law kind of really adds up all the time. Because I give an example. Some people use a bench trial. Some people use a jury trial. Me personally, if I'm in a predicament, I need a judge. I need a bench trial, because I don't want people decide my fate on their feelings. I need it to be decided under the color of the law. So if the law said, hey, I was able to protect myself because of X, Y, Z, that's good. But a lot of people tend to be like, hey, I'm gonna get a jury to decide my fate. But under the law, you have to be able to see. And I give you an example. I'm at a gas station right now. If I'm concealed carry and I see somebody in immediate harm right now, where their life is in jeopardy, not them arguing, not them fighting, but someone pulls out a gun, pulls out a weapon, and begins to use that weapon, I can then try to protect that person and the people, right there. So
Okay. Okay. All right. That's good. I'm gonna go to the next caller. Mr. Mike Brown. Miss-
All right. So there's a lot of context that goes within whether a person can use deadly force. I'm sure your callers and yourself, from the statutory reference in
Okay.
the state of Illinois. The specific statutory reference is Chapter 720, Illinois Compiled Statutes, Act 5, Section 7-1. A person is authorized to use force when to the extent that he reasonably believes. Now, there's the key word, reasonably believes that your conduct, what you're about to do, is necessary to defend yourself from another person's harm towards you that is imminent. That's an adjective that means it's about to happen. However, you are justified in the use of force which is intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm, when to the extent that you reasonably believe that what you are about to do is necessary to stop someone's attempt to kill you or cause great bodily harm to yourself or to another, or to prevent the commission of a forcible felony. A forcible felony is just a felony where it involves the use of force, okay? So when we talk about the use of force, in my training and experience in investigating police use of force as a homicide detective, a variety of different things. I'm not going to spit my whole resume here. There's a three-pronged analysis: reason, right, and reasonable. Reason. We all may have reasons to do things. What Stringer was articulating was disparity of force. A person being big versus a person being small, a person being frail versus a person being strong, or what society would deem a person as being strong. And there's a lot of context within that. But we all may have a reason to it. Whether or not a person is right or not, that's another analysis. People may believe we do not have stand your ground in Illinois. We actually have stand your ground by virtue of case law. And we don't have to retreat, but you can stand your ground and actually defend yourself or use deadly force. So those are case law and statutory law. But then what is reasonable, as Stringer eloquently put it, right? What is reasonable is not determined by you. Reasonableness is determined by society, a jury of your peers, and even that has context with that. Would the other people who have to decide your fate, be it the jury, citizens in our county as the triers of fact, or a judge on a bench trial, would they do the same thing you did if they were in your situation, given the totality of all the things that happen that can be proven and admitted into evidence in a court of law? There's a lot of context with that. That was a lot that I just said. I'll land here.
Wow.
Mark, can I before you go to the other brother, let me piggyback real quick off that.
Oh, okay.
I give you an example, right? If you break into somebody's house, right, and you see the person, and that person begins to retreat out your home, and you shoot him, what happens? You're in trouble, right? Crazy law, right? And it's like, okay, well, man, the guy broke in my house, but he was leaving. Still, and I don't want to use this word slippery slope, but because we have jury of our peers and we got people that determine if, you're in a certain situation, do you have time to retreat? So if I'm at this gas station, right, and I got time to retreat, well, I was able to retreat. I didn't, the guy, he was coming. Could I pull it off? It comes with a lot to where, like you said, under the scope, how the report was rolled up. I'll say this and I'm going to shut up. A lot of people watch videos and they feel like, oh, I've seen the video. I know what happened. No, you don't. When I was in college learning the criminology system, I found out that video lies more than you believe. Don't believe everything that you see, because it's things that you don't even know what's going on But because you look at a video, you be like, oh, see, it's cut and dry. Look at the video. So
Okay. All right. My brother, 646. I'm sorry. Thank you for being patient. The ball is in your
Nah, it's all
court.
good.
Okay.
So in my opinion,
Mhm.
both instructors are correct.
Mhm.
The rule of law states that you have to be justified. Your being justified means that your life's in danger, someone else's life in danger, or you're trying to attempt to stop the commission of a forcible felony. What I tell a lot of students is basically, you're not the police, so don't go ahead and interject in somebody's stuff unless you really feel like you have to do that, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, you just keep it moving, right? If
Mhm.
your life's in danger or someone else's life in danger, that's the best way you can justify actually having to use your firearm. We
Mhm.
train you so that way you're able to walk away from a situation and go back home the way you left. However, we don't want you to have to use your firearm if possible, because the context does change everything, right?
Mhm.
They were saying, if someone attacks you and it's just hands and we're good to go, right? One-on-one,
Mhm.
the context changes if that one-on-one happens to be with an older person, right? Or a lady or a child. Everything changes. So you have to really think about it. Once you're armed with a firearm, it's not about, oh, I could just defend myself, oh, I got a gun. It's about doing the right thing. The firearm is the last resort. But yes, when it's time to actually having to shoot someone, it's only when your life's in danger or when someone else's life's in danger.
So I have a
Because
question.
just because you pull that trigger, there's a lot that comes after that. Go ahead.
Right. So, okay, suppose I'm 54 and I beat up a 75-year-old man with my hands and he's a conceal and carry. I'm knocking him around, beating him up. Yes, I'm beating him up. So that 75-year-old man, I'm big, say like, we'll say the 75-year-old man, he's like about 5'1", I'm 6'1", and he's probably about a little less than 90 pounds. You know, he barely can walk. And he shoots me and kills me. Would that be justified in your eyes?
It's not about how I feel.
Yeah.
I would say yes, but it's not about necessarily how I feel.
Right.
It's more about that, how did that individual feel that pulled that trigger. At the point where that person feels like his life is in danger, that's when he's justified to shoot. If there's 3 guys beating you up and you're outnumbered, the moment you fall down and you start feeling you're about to be rendered unconscious, you don't know what's going to happen after you pass out. So at that moment, that's when you become justified.
Okay.
Well,
Mike Brown, go ahead.
If I can interject.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
I will sit here and say this. It is also about how another person would feel, because remember I talked about reason, right, and reasonable.
Mhm.
How the older man felt 75 years old, that's the reason. That's his analysis. But the triers of fact would have to put themselves in the position of that 75-year-old man, provided a prosecutor is able to paint the picture for the jury to do that. That's why it's very important that, you know, your listeners and all of us here, we pick attorneys that are able to teach the jury, teach the judge, because they may not understand unless you teach them and put them in the mindset of, if you were in this position, would you have done the same thing? And given the context of a 75-year-old man who was unable to, and you being in your 50s who was able to, given the context of that scenario, yes, I would almost guarantee that, yeah, there would be a conviction on you for attacking that frail man, regardless of whether or not both of you had hands. And I think it was wonderful that that point was put out there, that just because a person is unarmed, the context does change. As 646 wonderfully said, the context does change when you look at the frailness of the man or a woman or a child. I land here.
Okay. Stringer, did you want to interject or anything, say anything with that?
I give you an example. Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman. Okay?
Okay.
Like, if anybody watched that trial, and I mean, I watched that trial, I can probably give you verbatim of what they were saying in the trial. And a lot of people were in their feelings, and I get it. I was too. But George Zimmerman had a great attorney. He had a great attorney. And like Mr. Brown just said, you got to find attorneys that can cultivate the judge, can stimulate the jury, if you decide to get a jury, to make them feel compassionate about you. You understand what I'm saying? And make you feel like, hey, that was your last choice. That was all you had. Listen, I feared for my life. And what done it in the Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman was that, hey, that man had a little bit of blood in the back of his head that made it seem like Trayvon could have took his life, and that's why he shot him. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that totality comes with, you know, kind of educating yourself on what is it that you can do, because like the instructor said, the most important thing is to you're supposed to be retreating. Like you said, you're not police. You know, you don't supposed to be going into a gunfight. You don't supposed to be going into a night fight just because you got it. And I always keep the mindset, if I didn't have this gun, would I run up there? If I didn't have this gun, would I go do this? And the answer to most people is probably not. So, you know, be careful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to interject here.
Go ahead, Mike.
The point you made on Trayvon Martin is something, because I know George Zimmerman's attorney. He's a national trial counsel for an insurance agency. And regardless of the narrative that was being put out there, there was a huge disparity of force given Trayvon Martin's height and his youth versus George Zimmerman being small, short, and then being small in stature. Yeah, they were able to use that. So I just wanted to add that in. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to say this. Sometimes we can't go pick a fight. Then when when somebody get the best of us, now we want to use the law with our CCL. We want to manipulate the situation. And I understand these great lawyers, trial lawyers, they can make the judge feel passionate, the jury as well. And it's catchy. It's real catchy out here. Now, the reason why I had you guys on here, I'm quite sure you guys heard about the assistant principal, Mr. Joseph, was shot and killed inside of his building in the hallway by another tenant. And that's, I want to have you guys here to explain the law. Explain the law. Now, take in mind, we don't have all the evidence. This is just circumstantial evidence that we have, that little information that we do have. Now, one thing we do know about this case, that Mr. Joseph is dead. We know that Mr. Joseph was shot 7 times. We know that. We know who the shooter was. The shooter also called the police after he shot him. That's what a concealed carry post do. He did. He followed all that. They took him in. They did not charge him. They allowed him to leave and, come back home. So the question is to the public, this is the court of public opinion, I would say, the onlookers, such as myself. I just couldn't, it's to me, and I know a lot of you guys don't know it, details. To me, I felt that this probably was racially motivated, and it's more to the story, I would say. Now, remember, I don't have a skin in this game. I don't know Mr. Joseph, nor do I know the shooter, so I don't know, and I'm not law enforcement. But to me, the way they word this story, it wasn't right, if I may say that to me. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not a judge or an attorney or none of them things like that. And I talked to 646. He was saying earlier, he said, I have a lawyer that can make it appear to be a certain way. There are lawyers out here that's bad. You think you got a open and closed door case, and them lawyers that turn this thing around. There's a lot of lawyers. So my point is, I'm asking you guys, can you guys tell me a little bit about what you heard? You don't have to really speak on the case, whether it was justified or not right now, but I just want to know what you heard. I'm going to start with you, Stringer.
I'm gonna keep it all the way a buck. I don't like to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't like to be subjective. to things that I don't know all the facts, right?
Good.
And, you know, these be those moments where we have to sit and just wait, because just because he was released to go home, and I said this once before on your show, it does not mean that the state's attorney won't pick it up tomorrow. It don't mean that the state's attorney won't pick it up a month from now. It just means as of this point, it's not enough evidence to charge this man. I don't know with the witnesses, with the report, and how things kind of went, the toxicology report that probably they did on both gentlemen. I don't know what that came back. So for me, being, you know, who I am and things like that, it's really tough to kind of, you know, say, hey, you know, this guy should be I can't even say that it's racially motivated, because one of the issues is that I have, and this is just my issue, that when a white person, for some strange reason, does anything to a black person, it becomes a racially motivated event. But when a black person does something to a black person, what is it called then? Is it still racially motivated because I'm black and the other person killed me black? Like, we have to use our own common sense sometimes and say, hey, maybe this, what's the young man that passed? What's his name?
Mr. Joseph, yeah.
Mr. Joseph. See, I'm going to call him Mr. Joseph. I'm not going to call him assistant principal. I'm going to call him Mr. Joseph. I didn't know him as an assistant principal, and he wasn't working in that aspect when he got killed, right? So he was Mr. Joseph at that particular time, with all due respect. You know what I'm saying? So I can't really necessarily give a factual, even an opinion on what happened, because it's not enough out yet to make that assumption of was he right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? And maybe the other guys on a panel here can speak more about it, because maybe I'm just not informed enough to know, you know, what exactly happened. You know, they might have more facts, you might have more facts, Mr. Johnson, and then I can elaborate on it from there. So.
Okay, Mr. Mike Brown, what you heard about this case? A little bit briefly.
No, I seen a Twitter headline about something about assistant principal. This is my first time hearing about it, so I would like to know what, if anything, you might have heard. But then again, I have to 100% agree with Stringer that, and I can tell you this, having investigated death as a homicide detective, that the facts come in as they come in. It is a evolving investigation. You have to go where the evidence takes you, depending upon how and when it occurred. You still have to wait for autopsy to come back, you know, toxicology to come back, and you only have 48 hours to hold a person, at which point in time, if the state's attorney has not granted felony approval for charges, you have to release them. And especially since we're now under the no cash bail, the Safety Act, the provisions of the Safety Act, you know, there's a lot of scrutiny that is coming around these charging decisions because of the work that the prosecutors have to do. And now, jail under Section 114- or 116-4, one of the other statutes, the criminal bail statute, it's a lot that they have to do. So I'm clueless right now as to what, if anything, occurred, because as Stringer did say, and I'll land with this, though he is an assistant principal, and that's a laudable profession, we don't know what happened in that situation in that apartment building that may have given rise to a potential justification. The state's attorneys have to be able to meet their burden of proof. And maybe at this point in time, they can't meet their burden of proof due to lack of evidence.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. 646. I think it Willis, right? The Marine guy. Hey, go ahead, buddy.
Yes, sir. So yeah, I agree with the first two instructors. I didn't hear much about it, like I told you before I got on this call. depending on the situation, that can or cannot be justified. And we don't want to jump to any conclusions as the facts come out later on. We'll actually find out what happened. It took a long time before certain people got charged with a crime in certain cases. So we just have to wait it out and find out the details. And as the details arrive, then maybe, we'll be able to talk about it more. I don't really have much to say.
Okay. Well, this is what I'm going to do, gentlemen. I need you guys to listen to me. I'm not the best reader in the world, but I can read and comprehend. So I'm going to read what one of the newspapers written down. Okay? Is that cool? All right. Listen. Okay. Joseph, 32, was killed by another tenant after Joseph was wildly knocking on doors and yelling incoherently, according to police report. The resident who shot him was released without being charged. All right. A resident who was fatally shot Joseph during a disturbance in the Loop high-rise building was released without bail, without being charged following the shooting, according to Chicago police. The family of the assistant school principal said Friday they're left with questions and looking for closure. We can't make sense of it, said his sister, Gina Joseph, who last spoke to her brother Wednesday, the day before the shooting. We don't really know what's going on. We have questions and we don't have no answers to the questions. All right, let's get to the meat of this. The shooting happened about 7:30 p.m. on the 48th floor of the building at 60 East Monroe Street, as Joseph was wildly knocking on resident doors, attempting to enter apartments with an S and yelling incoherently, according to the police report. When the doorman and 4 tenants went to check, he allegedly struck the doorman several times. A tenant then tried to calm him down and was hit and fell down, the report said. Another tenant warned Joseph that he was armed and told him to stop hitting people. The police report said Joseph turned and charged at the tenant, who opened fire, hitting him several times. Joseph, 32, was shot in the chest, the abdomen, the flank, the armpit, and the ring finger, according to the report. He was taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 11 p.m., according to the Cook County Medical Examiner Office. An autopsy Friday determined he died of multiple gun wounds and his death was ruled as a homicide, the office said. All right. The tenant who fired the shots called 911 and waited for the police to arrive, according to the report. The man, who has a concealed carry license, was placed into police custody and subsequently released, official says. Now, that's what we have right there. Okay. Now,
Yeah, I got a lot to ask.
okay, well, who want to go first? Make a difference.
I'll go. Can I
I
go
want
first?
to say something.
Okay. Well, hold on, ma'am. Let me talk to. I'm gonna get you. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do, Mike Brown. Let's go to our 646 real quick. I'll come to you last, ma'am. Okay, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead, 646. Go ahead.
So, based on that article, there's not a lot of facts. All we know is that he attacked a few individuals, and he attacked that man. As of right now, was placed under arrest, and he wasn't charged subsequently. But I believe that he probably will be charged with a crime. It doesn't seem that there's any justification there, but again, we don't know the facts yet.
Okay.
So that's all I've got.
Okay, Mr. Brown.
digress.
Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Well, from what I heard, we would have to wait till toxicology comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a big factor in this, because when I'm hearing that he's allegedly knocking on the door incoherently, all behavior is communication. And when he's knocking on the door incoherently and other people are allegedly trying to talk to him to get him to calm down and he is not listening, was that behavior consistent with someone under the influence of a controlled substance or an intoxicating compound that could result in him having an altered mental status? So that's one thing that I'm looking at there. Toxicology they could be awaiting the results of toxicology. When I heard of the places where he was shot, and then I heard that he was shot in the hand or one of the fingers,
Mm-hmm.
if you understand physiology, it's consistent with him running toward the person that he was shooting, because if you study physiology, when you run, most people run with their hands in front of their torso when they're propelling themselves forward. And so that evidence is consistent with other people who have been shot and killed in such a manner. Those people could remember. There's another controversial case, Mike Brown.
There you go.
In Ferguson, with Mike Brown, and how if you look at the trajectory, and I've been in autopsies before, and we've used, among other things, trajectory rods to determine the point of entrance and exit and things like that, and the trajectory of the flight path of the bullet through the decedent's body. We begin to see the likelihood of how that person's body could have been positioned at the bullet's point of entry and impact. So that's one thing that it springs out to me. And then we'd like to see the video cameras.
Thank you.
If anything, because you're talking about a high-rise building
Luxury.
in downtown, and the hallway is a common area. And I could see the building's owners protecting their investment. So I would not be surprised if there was some video out there that I don't know if there would be sound, because I doubt it would be sound, because people like to protect their investment and like to protect their clients, and so you don't want to have sound per se. But I would not be surprised if the video shows what it purports to show of the activity that took place. Like I said, there are some things that are not out there that we don't know. I will not say that, I'll end with this. I will not say that the assistant principal was knocking on the door with some criminal intent to cause harm. I will say that the people who were in the hallway did not necessarily understand the behavior. There's a saying I like to say, that those who understand behavior address it. Those who do not understand behavior suppress it. And just like they were in the hallway trying to deal with him, they could have easily stayed inside of their rooms and not dealt with him at all, because there's nothing to suggest that while he was knocking on the door, that he was trying to forcibly enter any of those apartments. And conflict avoidance is a huge thing that qualified instructors who are really serious about this craft must teach. Just because you have concealed carry doesn't mean you play police, and so, yeah, I land with that. There's more to ask about this.
Also, let me just throw this in real quick. According to a student parent said that he was in his boxers and he had a robe on. So that's what I was told, but that's not in this report. Okay, Mr. Stringer, go ahead. Let's say then we got a caller.
I'm gonna piggyback off of what Mr. Brown said. The autopsy definitely brings back Mike Brown. With his forearms being up, it all tells you that he's running towards the person. Here's the thing: if someone is intoxicated, does that give someone else a right to kill him? Answer is no. It doesn't. It doesn't, right? Does that still fall under the scope of concealed carry, lawful I saw people in great bodily harm for their life? I don't know, right? Because I wasn't there. So was this guy so irate where this other guy thought that this man, by charging me, he was going to do great bodily harm to me. Like Mr. Brown said, everybody had a chance to retreat back into their apartment. And let me ask you another question, Mr. Johnson. When was the first 911 call initiated?
According to this report, after the shots was fired.
Okay, so out of all this time, and this probably took, I don't know, let's say 30 to 60 seconds to happen. Nobody, from the doorman to the neighbors, said, hey, it's a guy beating on my door. I think, I don't know who it is. Can you send somebody over? So the police doesn't get called until this man loses his life. Something wrong with that. Like, you come out your apartment again. Maybe he was coming home from work. Maybe he was on his way to work. This particular guy took time out to do whatever. Because once again, you can talk to the other two instructors. I'm not an instructor. Under the color of your concealed carry, if it was me, and I'm just speaking for me, do I feel like this is an opportunity for me to take somebody's life? With me not being there and knowing the totality of the situation, it's hard for me to answer. But being who I am, I'm not going to shoot this guy for charging at me. I'm just not going to do it. And you say he's standing there in his robe and boxers?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the other side of it. Let's say the young man was
Sir, please. Go ahead, Trigger.
Let's say that he's on PCP, right?
Right.
I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know that at the time just by looking at him, just by how he's acting. I wouldn't know that. But once that toxicology report comes out, let's say he was on PCP, that changes the whole narrative now. It's like, oh man, but at the time of the event, you don't know that though. So it's kind of tossed in the air, and it's just like, hey, that could be another reason why they let him go home and say, hey, we're just going to wait for the evidence to come out some more. And hey, we might bring you back, sir. We might not, but this is where we're staying. So that's my opinion on the situation.
Okay. I have a caller.
And I got to interject.
Okay, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike Brown. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Be quickly.
Go ahead.
Also, the person who allegedly did the shooting called 911 and stayed on the scene and submitted to law enforcement, allowed them to take him into custody and take him down to Area 1. That you're buying a lot of credit when you do that. So I gotta give it. That's not the behavior of someone when you do that who is trying to evade law enforcement. So we gotta put that in there.
Okay. All right. Okay, I have a caller. Hey, caller, go ahead. 3699. She's been waiting. Go ahead, caller. What some of the comments you had to say?
Well, according to the news, it has been said that Mr. Joseph and the shooter had a past. There had been issues between the two of them before, so I don't know what that's about, but they have a past according to the news. And I'm going to go along with what Stringer said. I'm trying to understand. It's not normal in any community, in any residence, apartment building, or workplace to see someone acting erratic and not make a call to the police. No one was afraid. That's why the police was never called. And not make a call to the police. When people are afraid and in fear for their safety, the first thing that we think about is call the police. This man took matters into his own hands. He was not afraid. He was going to do something about Mr. Joseph. He had had enough of him. He confronted him. And let's say that Mr. Joseph was beating on doors and speaking incoherently. Why can't it be that he was running for his life? What floor did he live on, and what floor was he murdered on? it's been said that Mr. Joseph resided on the 20-something floor, but when he was killed, he was on the 49th floor.
48th floor,
What
I
was he
think.
doing up there?
Mm.
The 48th floor. Okay, so beating on doors and speaking incoherently could be, help me, they're trying to kill me. It could be that. And I'm trying to understand what made him come out of his house, his apartment. If he was in his robe and his boxer, something made him come out of there. I don't know.
Okay.
But something made him come out of his own house. And that's a lot of getting away from the 20-something floor to the 48th floor. Something is not being told.
So maybe I missed something. I don't mean to, so who was on whose floor? Who was on whose floor?
Mr. Joseph lived on the 20-something floor.
I think it was the 17th floor or 20-something, one of the floor, but he lived in the lower floor. Yeah.
One or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in a high-rise building back in the 90s at 655 West Irving Park Road. I lived on the 25th floor. And to go and get mail, I never went down in my robe or pajamas. I was always fully dressed when I went down to get my mail or pick up a package that was being delivered. We had a grocery store in the building. There was a dry cleaners in the building. There was a nail salon and hair salon in the building. So I never walked around that building that had over 900 apartments in it in a robe. So there's something that they're not telling. There's something going on there, and somebody needs to tell it.
Well,
this is a persistent principle.
Okay, hold on, sister. Go ahead, Mr. Brown. Go ahead, Mr. Brown. Mike Brown, go ahead. I'll call you Mike Brown. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, if I were to play defense attorney for the person who shot Mr. Joseph, if we're saying that it's an emergency and though it is not normal, we have to look at things on two contexts. First of all, though civilians are not the police, we have to understand the law as it relates to arrest by a private citizen. 725 ILCS 5, section 107-3. Any person may arrest another when he or she has reasonable grounds to believe that an offense other than an ordinance violation is being committed. It does not specify or differentiate the difference between a felony or a misdemeanor. Disorderly conduct or breach of the peace is a violation of Illinois law. And so, though it is the case that a person acting erratically, people can call 911 and do, there is no mandate that 911 must be called. Though it is not advisable, citizens can and have taken the enforcement of the law in their own hands and have conducted it daily without incident. So that would be one argument. Last argument, and then I'll land. Just imagine if I'm the defense attorney for the shooter, for the person, the decedent, Mr. Joseph, to live on the 29th floor, to then travel to the 30th floor. He could have knocked on those doors on the 30th floor, to the 31st floor, to the 32nd floor, to the 33rd floor. Just imagine you're in court, you're hearing all these floors that were bypassed to get to the 49th floor.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be some intent.
Mm-hmm.
So what can't be ignored by the jury.
Stringer, go ahead, Stringer.
What if he was having a medical episode?
Mm-hmm. Why was he deemed criminal?
What if something was wrong with him medically to where he went into this zone where it wasn't PCP, it wasn't narcotics, it wasn't alcohol. He was just having a medical episode Like,
Mhm.
that's why I be like, sometimes we have to wait because we're jumping to just so much what if, and we don't know the evidence and we don't know the facts of everything. And I think this where it plays out at, because I've seen a lot of people where the state's attorney be like, yeah, go home, and 3 days later, 3 weeks later, the sheriff's knocking at your door with an arrest warrant. So, you know, again, it's a lot that I think is going to play with this. I don't think it's over with. I just don't think it's over with.
Can I say something really quick?
Yes, go ahead. 646. Go ahead.
I agree with Mr. Brown with that statement he made. If it was a medical emergency, or if he was on drugs, regardless, he could have went to any other apartment on his floor or any other floor before he got to the 40-something floor. There is something else going on there.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But how will we ever know? Because only one person can tell the story for real.
Well,
Because the other person
Yeah, but we don't-
is over here to tell his side, right? So now
But we don't
gotta
know
go
what
off the evidence to tell his story.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? The evidence supposed to tell his side of the story, because at the end of the day, you know, everybody's gonna see something a little different. Even though you have 4 witnesses, I believe, I guarantee you, if you look at everybody's statement, they're all different. They're all different. Everybody sees something different. You know what I'm saying? So it's really tough try to speak for the dead. It is,
Yeah.
especially being in a law enforcement capacity, because now you're trying to put some stuff together, and it's just like, oh snap. You know, Mr. Brown would know. I wasn't, you know, an investigative detective for no murders and nothing like that, but I've been around enough to see the things that it takes to try to put cases together. And a lot of people think, oh man, the police just go out there and go get him. Look, he right there. It ain't that easy, folks. It ain't that easy. It ain't that easy. So you gotta, again, when things be, as we think, cut and dry, they don't be cut and dry. It be a little wet, be a little slippery. And that's why it's called a slippery slope, because you got to be careful. Because if they bring him in, charge him, get released, it's just like, oh man, okay, be careful what you're doing. So
okay, I have a question to ask you guys. I think me and you talked about it, Mr. Harris, Stringer Harris. As being a concealed and carrier person, do we have to announce that we're armed to the person that we feel is about to threaten or threaten us? Is that against the rules, the law, and statute, or something? Maybe you guys can explain that to me.
the only
Yeah, I can
person
explain
that
Okay, hold on, Stringer. 646. Go ahead. 6.
So I tell my students, don't alert them. You're not required to announce anything in the state of Illinois. I would not alert anyone. There was a situation where a gentleman alerted, and he said something in a bank that was being held up, and it got into a shootout, and they both died. If you got the upper hand, use it. If you're going to pull your firearm because you feel like your life's in danger, or someone else's life's in danger, it's time to use it. Otherwise, you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Okay. Stringer, anybody want to say anything? Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I think
no,
it's kind of,
Go
Okay.
ahead, Mr. Brown. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
yeah, I just think it's context depending in that given situation, because when you're talking about the tools that you have at your disposal, it is context depending. It's possible for you to not necessarily announce that you are armed, but using a careful choice of words that I'm prepared to defend myself, or peace be still, I don't want any conflict, you know, you are not the problem, stuff like that. You don't have to necessarily announce that you're armed. Now, that's tactics. In terms of the law, you are not under any obligation to announce your attempts to defend yourself or your action in defending yourself. The law just says
that if you reasonably believe that someone is trying to take your life, you may defend yourself. Announcing that you're about to, the law does not provide any clarity as to that.
Okay, Stringer.
I think about it like this too. How many times I can just think for myself, somebody said, you know, I got a gun. Like, nobody talks about, hey, I got a gun. Either you pull a gun or you don't. It's like pulling out the gun. You're not going to pull it out and use it. Don't pull it out. Like, the gun is not to scare people. Like, again, I'm not an instructor, but I promise you, each one of these instructors would tell their people, you're not pulling your gun out to scare anybody. That's not what having a gun is for, right? So your gun is there to prevent your life or somebody, or like in your immediate circle right here, somebody's right next to you, from their life being taken. Other than that, if you have a chance to de-escalate a situation, that's what you should do. That's what you should do. De-escalate a situation and go on about your merry way. If you're not the police.
My dear,
I got to push back a little bit
Go
on
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
When it comes down to the pulling out of your firearm to make a person think twice, I disagree respectfully. That is a tactic, and it's called brandishing. The more training that you get, and the more training that you get to understand that brandishing in certain cases does provide a level of force that you can use to get someone to think twice, provided you have time, distance, cover, and concealment, or at least at a minimum time and distance to be able to do it. Sometimes just the placing of your hand on the grip, or even placing your hand in the vicinity where a gun is believed to be, can provide a de-escalation attempt where words were not enough, or you don't have time to formulate the right statements to state because under the influence of stress, you don't think clearly. And so that was the first thing that you went to. So there's a lot of context to this. So yeah, I mean, I get it in theory, but the more training that you have, yeah, putting your hand on your gun or putting it out into a high compressed ready can actually de-escalate a situation.
Okay, Mr. Brown, let me ask you a question. Can it also escalate a situation?
It most certainly can. Yes, it can.
Okay.
And that's why I said context absolutely matters, because if you are the aggressor in the situation under Section 2-6 of the Illinois Criminal Code, you don't get to start the problem. As Martin said before, you don't get to start it and then claim self-defense. So yes, you are correct. It can escalate it. Yes, it can.
Okay. I have a quick
I
question.
would be careful with the brandishing situation because in most states, brandishing is a crime and a felony in some states.
Okay. Now, in the state of Illinois, if you pull your firearm on a person and you don't have to use it, are you supposed to call and report that? Is that a law, a statute, or some guys?
No, and I can tell from the law enforcement side of the house, there's no requirement that you must call to report that, because the person whom you might have done that toward may not even report that they were the victim of that brandishing. So there's context within that too. Now, a person could sit there and call the police on you, but I just want to tell, and I'll land with this, I tell my students, this is not me teaching you how to stay out of jail. I can tell you, as a person who has been falsely arrested 3 times and found not guilty 3 times, you can do everything right and still be falsely arrested. So this is not a avoid jail, because the decision to arrest, charge, and convict doesn't rest in your hand. A concealed carry instructor is supposed to teach you as much as they can with what they know, how to preserve your life, avoid conflict, and be willing, if anything, to do what you have to do to preserve your life, and be okay in a certain context to go to jail or go to prison, because with life, that conviction can be overturned on appeal if you were justified.
Okay, I have a question from the okay, I'm gonna let my dear sister go, but let me ask this question real quick. Mr. Lewis Ramsey said, Martin, ask the platform callers if an off-duty police officer sees something that needs to be addressed, does he or she have to address they are a law? I guess they are the law.
That's an easy one for me.
Okay.
I'll wait till somebody else say something unless you want me to talk.
I mean, it's either or, whoever. That'll make a difference. Just go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you, as an off-duty police officer, it is our discretion in certain cases whether or not we choose to intervene. Do we have to? No, not necessarily. It just depends. Sometimes it's not the wise thing to intervene. And I'll give you case in point, Ariana Preston. Rest in peace to the family, of Ariana Preston. But she tried to intervene at a moment where it was not tactically safe to do so. In the police academy, because I used to be a police trainer, there's a lot of teaching on what to do on duty, but there's not a lot of emphasis on what to do off duty. And given that we as humans are the creatures of habit, if all you do is you learn constantly pull, point, press, pull, point, press, pull, point, press, when do you learn pull, point, pause? When do you learn how to play possum so as not to put yourself in unnecessary risk? So there's a lot of assessment that has to be made as to whether it is tactically sound to intervene because you are by yourself.
Okay, I have another question real quick.
I used to have a.
Go ahead, Stringer. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, I need to go to the caller too. Somebody said in the audience, Mr. Bobby, he said that once you pull that gun out, you must be in bodily harm. Is that true or false?
That's definitely true at a minimum. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to believe that there's going to be great bodily harm done to you or your life in danger.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean you have to get hit first.
Oh, okay. That's
there's
what I want.
There's a lot of misconception.
Okay.
Yep, there's a lot of misconception on that. You don't have to get hit first. 7-1 says that you believe that your actions are necessary to stop deadly force that is imminent. That means it's about to happen. You don't have to wait to get hit first.
For example, somebody charges you with a knife.
Go ahead, my dear sister. 36.99. Go ahead.
No, there's just a lot that we don't know. I'm interested in finding out what was the previous incidents between the shooter and the victim, and was management notified about this issue, and why wasn't the police called before? I heard what Mr. Brown said. I heard what he said, and that citizens can do a citizen's arrest. However, the imminent perils of danger was demonstrated because the man is dead. So the shooter believes, or he wants us to believe, that he was just in fear for his life or someone else's. So if he did not use all of his options. I mean, it takes time to get from this 17th floor to the 48th floor. No one called the police. I mean, this person was acting erratic and incoherently blurting out things and beating on doors. And then wasn't it said too that the shooter went and got his gun?
No, I didn't see that.
Pardon?
I didn't see that. Now I don't want to add into. I did not see that.
Okay,
I didn't see
right.
that.
I don't want to add anything. I thought I heard something about that. So you could strike that, but
okay.
I just want to know why didn't the doorbell was assaulted? No one called the police then. All this beating on doors from the 20-something floor all the way to the 48th floor. All of this went on and nobody called the police. Something isn't right. And I want to know what was the previous incident.
Okay.
Because
I have
it sounds like to me somebody was going to get even.
okay. I have a question
I'm
for
tired of
you.
you. I've had just about enough. I'm going to teach you a lesson. That's what it sounds like to me right now.
Okay. I want to ask you guys a question. And I think we briefly talked about it. If a person, these two gentlemen, Mr. Joseph and the other shooter, now they probably like around the same size, different age gap, a gap maybe 15 years or so like that. And never once in the, according to the newspaper article, that they said that Mr. Joseph had a weapon in his hand, a blunt object or anything. And when the guy, the shooter, announced that he was armed and told him to stop hitting people, then they said Mr. Joseph turned around and charged towards the shooter. And that's when the shooter, as Brown said, point, shoot, press, you know. So I had some questions about this because you shoot a man, well, Mike said it, if you're running toward him, those shots are justified because he was running toward him. And the hand, the flank, the arm, the ring finger, or something like that. I was saying that, was it necessary to use deadly force at that? That's my opinion. I'm just asking. In my eyes, I don't believe that it was necessary, knowing the circumstances that I know now, to use deadly force at this particular time when he shot this man in the hallway, Mr. Joseph in the hallway. That's just my opinion, people. This is the court of public opinion, not the court of law. Mike Brown and also the other gentlemen, they brought out law facts. So I'm just me talking, period. But okay, gentlemen, you can answer that. We're gonna go ahead and close it out and let you guys have I need you guys before you answer that, well, when you answer it, I'm gonna give you guys the closing statement. Make sure that you announce if you're hiring or if you need somebody to know what page you are, what's your social media page or something like that. I don't care about you guys announcing that. So I want to appreciate you guys for coming on here, being honest. You don't have to agree with me, but just I wanted the people to hear from professionals that know the law, that practice the law, that's in the law and teach it. So I'm gonna start with Mr. Stringer. Go ahead, Mr. Stringer.
Wow.
Well, you just tell us. You was telling me about.
I didn't know you was gonna start with me.
Okay. I'll start with 646.
Come back to me next.
Okay, 646. Go ahead, caller. Tell us how to find you and your instruction class if somebody interested in doing business with you.
All right. So you can find me at kaw1418.com. You can also find me at acdefensecompany.com or acdefense.co.
Okay.
My personal opinion is going to be skewed from the reality because we don't know the facts.
Right.
However, I mean, legality is going to be different from reality, right? Legally, someone charges you without a weapon, it doesn't seem like that should be justified. But there could be other circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we just got to see and find out. But honestly, there's two ways to look at it, right? Nobody in their right mind charges you when you have a gun pointed at them. So he could have been under the influence of something. That does not justify the man shooting him, though. Without a weapon or without it appearing he might have a weapon, I don't think he should have shot. But there might be other circumstances that gave him the justification.
Okay. Thank you.
That's where I got it there.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Everybody for your.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I don't recall saying that the shots were justified. I said that I can see how the entrance and exit, or if there were any exit wounds.
No. What I was
Mr.
saying, Mr.
Joseph.
Brown, it lines that showing that the person was coming toward him. That's what I was saying. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to
okay.
clarify that. No,
Okay.
I know what you were saying.
Okay. All right.
I just wanted to clarify that because justified is, and you know, I got no problem saying if something is justified.
Right.
But I don't see that just yet because there are still some information that needs to come out. But I'm always on the thing about conflict avoidance. I can say that preliminarily, this could have been avoided. Unless there was a breach into the actual home, I would need to know, if I were a juror or an investigator or a prosecutor or whatever, or even a defense attorney, why did you come out to the hallway? Why did you come out to the hallway? You could have just stayed where you were. There wasn't a necessity to come out into the hallway, but that'll come later on down the line. I think more needs to come out in this. You now have me interested in this story because, you know, people matter, our educators matter. And we need to find out just what was this. So moral of the story, conflict avoidance. Because you got concealed carry, don't get into stuff. Like, it could have gone so bad. Like, Mr. Joseph could have been a Muay Thai fighter and took the gun out of that guy's hand and shot him with his own gun. Those things do happen. You know, just because you have a gun doesn't mean you're going to always win, you know. And I'll land with that. In terms of my contact information, you can always go to MikeBrownsClasses.com. Right now, I'm running a special, $25 for a concealed carry class. You just got to pay your range fee. So if you're interested in that, you could just text CCL to 773-644-5000. I got weekday, weekend classes, stuff like that. I just want to say, Martin, it's it's a privilege to be on your show. And you ran this show very well. To the panelists and everybody who called, this is an outstanding show. We were able to have our conversations and points of view in a respectful manner. This is what it's supposed to be about. I want to give you your flowers or whatever the guys supposed to give each other on a good job done. I
appreciate it. Thank you, Mike. It took a long time to get to this point, though. You know, some people, they come on here, they want to argue, debate. Now, we don't all have to agree and we don't see each other, but let us respect each other, hear each other out, you know, and that's what this platform is for the people, you know, for the people that don't have a voice. You come on here, you speak, and you listen. Just as much as we give you opportunity to speak, we need you to listen as well. So that's why you guys didn't charge me anything to come on here. That's why I say, hey, it's okay if you advertise, say what you have to say. That's perfectly okay with me. And it was a last minute notice. I asked you guys just about all the same time. All right. Thank you, Brother Mike. Thank you. This is on YouTube as well, too, and Twitter. All right.
You're very welcome.
Stringer, come on, Mr. Harris. All right.
Right. First, let me say, Mike Brown, I love you should have got your TikTok videos because some things are amazing. They are amazing. If you don't know, I don't know if Mr. Brown is still on, but
he's still on.
It's probably his name. I don't know. Are you still here, Brown?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Can you please get your TikTok, man? Please.
You can find me on social media platforms on Instructor Mike, on YouTube, on TikTok, stuff like that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know, as much as I feel like I may know certain things, I go to, you know, just strolling and stuff like that. I see Mr. Brown page and it aligns me on certain laws that change. Because again, I'm not into the law enforcement aspect anymore, and laws change pretty much every day, and people don't know it. You'll never know what law changes tomorrow because you're not in tune. And what Mr. Brown does on his platform is he make you aware of certain things that that's going on within the law. So I appreciate you for doing that, man. People are watching, and I'm giving you your flowers right now. Appreciate that, man. Love you for what you do. You can find me at Stringer Harris on any platform. My name is my name. And right now, what we're trying to do is get justice for a young man who went to my high school, Hillcrest High School, who was just killed over the weekend at Hillcrest High School. And he was gunned down, shot 4 times right in front of the school after the homecoming game at Country Club Hills Friday night after the game. And that's kind of where my focus is right now. We're trying to get justice for this young man, and keep your thoughts and prayers out for Mike Sean. So that's that. To answer your question, do I feel like at the end of the day, from hearing what I hear, is this a justified shooting? No. Just hearing what I'm hearing right now, that man being in a robe, him not having a weapon, but again, we have to wait, and I don't want to pass judgment, because it'd be crazy, right? Let me play devil's advocate for a minute, and please, anybody that's listening, please don't take this any type of way. But we got to understand what type of society we live in, and I don't know, have we heard anything from his family? I don't know if he was married. I don't know if he had a girlfriend. I don't know what his situation was with which way he went with his with certain things in his life, if you guys understand what I'm saying. But we don't know why he was on that floor, right? He could have been going to see a young lady on that floor. He could have been going to see one of his guys on the floor. There's no telling what happened that led him up on the floor to where he's on the floor now, to where he's dealing with a gentleman that he's running into issues with. And sometimes we take this assistant principal thing, or we take pastors, right? Because pastors be messing up big time. We use these titles to put them over just a regular Joe Blow. And I don't want to do that. And I just want to keep it kind of even. Somebody lost their life. And I personally feel like it shouldn't have been a situation where he lost his life, but I wasn't there. And I only can speak on my opinion. And my opinion only says that if that man went back to his apartment and called 911, Mr. Joseph will still be here today to tell his side of the story.
Thank you. My last caller, my dear sister, 3699. Go ahead, your closing comments, and we out of here. Go ahead.
I just want to say, I want to know what was the previous engagement between the shooter and the victim. There's more than what's being said. This is and also I want to know who appointed this shooter to deem this man criminal, because he appeared to be acting erratic. I want to know, what is criminal? Is it the chemical in his skin that made him criminal? Is it the past issues they've had, allegedly? What's going on? That's it.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank all my panel for the last minute notice coming on live, uncut, unedited. I appreciate you guys. I want to thank my brother. I did an interview with him before, 646, months ago, and he was actually, this guy was so brilliant. I was sitting at the table with 2 attorneys, and he blew them away to me. Seriously. I mean, he came with facts, laws, and the attorneys, they had, if you didn't ask them anything, they didn't volunteer no information, other words. But I want to thank each and every last one of you guys. Appreciate you. The video has been shown on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Martin G. Johnson, basically on all platforms. I'm the vinyl man on Twitter. So thank you guys again. Thank you, my dear sister, for calling in. I want to thank all those that was in the message that did comment. I want to thank my YouTube family, my Twitter family, and my Facebook family for tuning in. Thank you so much. Everything was appreciated for you guys coming in. Make sure you guys share the video, because people going to listen to this video, they're going to watch it, they're going to make comments about this video. So don't take it personal. Sometimes the people in the message can be brutal. They be brutal to me. So, hey, it is what it is. You already know what it is.
You already know what it is.
What it is.
Live,
Uncut.
unedited.
And Mike Brown, this is where we
Tell the truth
and what?
and shame the devil.
And
I love being black.
good night, everybody.